Well, hello and welcome to this week's Sofa Sermon as we turn the page from 2022 to 2023. I want us to take a few moments looking at some principles from a passage that kind of talks about what it means to go from something old to something new. So the old year, 2022, is behind us. Good, bad, or indifferent, whatever happened to you, whether you wanted to hang on to it or whether you're just breathing a sigh of relief that it's finally over, we are standing firmly in a new year, and I want to help you make the most of it. And so I want us to take a look at a passage from Isaiah 43 that does a great job of outlining some principles about what it means to let go of the old and take hold of the new. So letting go of the old, taking hold of the new. And let me read just a little bit from that passage. It's in Isaiah 43, verse 18. Do not remember the former things, neither consider the things of old. Behold, I will do a new thing. I want to remind you, before I read the rest of that God is always about this. God is about doing new things. God is about stepping into situations where a breath of fresh air needs to come and He breathes exactly what needs to happen. We can count on God as we journey with Him to do new things. So He says, behold, I will do a new thing. Now it shall spring forth. Shall you not know it? I will even make a road in the wilderness and rivers in the desert, because I give waters in the wilderness and rivers in the desert to give drink to my people, my chosen. This people I have formed for myself. They shall declare my praise. This passage is a great reminder that when we want to transition from something old into something new, that there are some principles that we need to employ. One of those is exactly what it says in the first verse. Do not remember the former things, nor consider the things of old. And so one of the truths of spiritual matters is we can't really fully embrace the new stuff until we've let go of the old stuff. So the point that I wrote down is this, what I think is a principle. We have to make room for the new. No matter how much we want the new thing, no matter how much we desire it, no matter what benefit we see in it, until we clear out some of the old, we can't really have the new thing. There has to be room made for us. You go buy a new sofa, unless you just want, 3 sofas in your living room or whatever, you're going to have to take the old sofa out to make room for the new sofa. And that principle, is replicated here in Scripture in a lot of ways. Sometimes we want new experiences with God, but we're not willing to try anything new or to let go of what is old. And man, we've got to be able to do that. Deep things, new things that come into our lives require room that the old thing didn't have. And so we've got to make room of that. In other words, it's not an automatic thing. When a new thing comes, we don't just automatically get it. In order to get it and implement it, integrate it into our lives, we've got to clear out space of the old stuff to be able to do that. We've been singing a song for some time in Common Ground called Make Room. I think churches are singing it all over the planet. It's a song that makes a confession about this same kind of matter. Here's what it says. And I will make room for you to do whatever you want to. Shake up the ground of all my tradition. Break down the walls of all of my religion, for your way is better. I want to remind you that when we sing stuff like that, we need to mean it because we're making a confession, right? Like, I will make room for you. And I think maybe the Lord wants to remind some of us today that He is about doing new things, and in order to really embrace the new thing, you got to clear the path and kind of let the old thing go a little bit. So my question that I have today is this: in what way are you making room for the new things? In what way are you in your life already ready to let go of some of the stuff that you've had for a while, let it slide to the side and go ahead and be disposed of, and then you say to the Lord, here's this space in my life now. I ask you to come and do something new. Boy, He wants to do it, and the principle is it doesn't happen automatically. We have to make room for it. Secondly is this principle that plays out towards the end of this word that Isaiah the prophet has. Belonging to God comes with great benefits. Belonging to God comes with great benefits. And obviously I forgot to silence my phone today, but now it is. So belonging with God comes with great benefits. I would say it this way: membership has privileges. Membership has its privileges. Do you remember the old American Express commercials back in the 70s or 80s? And that's exactly what they said. Membership has its privileges. And they'd show why if you had an American Express card, you could buy more, you could do more, you could eat at the fancy restaurant and all of that. But the sentiment is exactly true. If you are a member of God's family, that comes with privilege. Now, what are the privileges of being a member of God's family? Let me explain it this way. I asked Bart Johnson if I could share this because he and his wife Kelsey, since July, have been going back and forth and staying a lot at Cook's Children's Hospital since their daughter May, baby May, she's just an infant, was diagnosed with a form of kidney cancer. She said surgery, she said procedures, she said chemotherapy. And on one occasion when baby May was having a certain kind of procedure, I had the privilege of just going up on behalf of our church and just sitting with him a little bit. And Bart said to me, when you get here, there's a Starbucks down there. We're going to be up there for a while. So he told me to do that. And so I let him know I was there. And I was sitting in Starbucks and I'm looking around and I'm thinking, man, Cook's Children's Hospital is a tough place to be sometimes. You see kids that can't walk. You see young children who've lost their hair because of chemotherapy and all of that. And you see parents who are carrying the burden of that. And so when Bart and Kelsey were able to come down while May was going through a procedure, we sat and we talked. And I was just kind of blown away by the faith that they showed. Man, they walked this thing out with such optimism and faith and just staying positive. And they began to say to me that one of the things that they noticed in all their time of sitting in these waiting rooms and waiting for doctors and waiting for procedures and being around all these other parents, that you could easily tell the difference between a parent who had faith and a parent who did not have faith. The parent who had faith was still peaceful. They were still concerned, of course, but they were peaceful, joyful. They were hopeful. They weren't overwhelmed. And those that didn't were experiencing all the other things, anger, they were overwhelmed, they were anxious, and all of that. And he said, boy, you really notice the difference. Can I tell you that one of the privileges of knowing the Father, one of the realities that membership in the family of God has its privileges, is that when you go through the deserts of life, and I can't think of any worse of a desert than having to put your baby girl on a helicopter and there's no room for the parents, and you see your baby fly off to go to Fort Worth to the hospital and you can't go with her. And then for the doctor to walk in the room and use the C word and say that your baby has cancer. I can't imagine what that's been like. And I felt so privileged, like so many others, to get to hear them tell some of the stories of how they just saw God's faithfulness and the prayers of our church that were standing with them were answered. And I asked Bart if it was okay if I shared some of this. But here's what the principle is. Membership has its privileges, and one of the privileges is this, is that when you're going through the desert, God will make rivers in the desert. Water to drink from where there shouldn't be any water. Hope where there should be no hope. Joy where there should be nothing but despair and anxiety. And that's exactly what Bart and Kelsey experienced in this past week, as we'll be sharing in all the services, that they were able to go and have a test done, a scan, and it showed that baby May is cancer-free. We are so grateful for what their testimony has been and how they've shared it with others, and so grateful for God answering the prayers of so many for that baby. Listen, I want to remind you that you got to make room. That if you really want to progress in your spiritual walk, you can't keep doing exactly what you've been doing all your life. At some point, you got to say, God, I want the new thing. You have to begin to say to God, God, I want everything that you have for me. And even if it's uncomfortable or unfamiliar, you would say, I'm going to clear out space of some of the old stuff and make room for the new stuff, because I know it's in my Father's heart to give me every good thing. And then you can know that the privilege of that, you doing that, just as it works itself out in the sequence of this scripture, is that when you're in the desert, and all of us go through deserts, all of us, it's unavoidable that when we're in the desert, we are His people, His chosen people. He makes rivers, He makes waters appear for the people that love Him. Well, I hope you're encouraged today. And thank you so much for being a part of this one. Hope that you'll get to be at worship today and that you'll tune in again next Sunday. Have a great week.